Hello, beta. Good evening, everyone. So, welcome to day 5 of our preparation, where we go ahead and we prepare for 4 important exams together, which is DEPR, IES, IAS Economics Optional, and UGC NET Economics. Every day, I meet you from Monday to Friday at 10:30 a.m. and we sit together and we go ahead and we do questions based on different topics. If you want to go ahead and get information about all such lectures that we are going to conduct in the future, and you want to get access to additional material like GK or additional information, like for example when the forms are out for different courses, you can go ahead and you can join our Telegram group. The link is in the description of this video. Please go ahead and join that group, and we will be updating you with a lot of information and a lot of different video lectures and a lot of different knowledgeable material, right? The topic that I choose for today is called Stability, Uniqueness and Marshallian Technique. And this is a topic of microeconomics. Better, let's look into the first question. Which of the following is stability condition for equilibrium? You are given 4 conditions. The first one says that the slope of demand curve is equal to slope of supply curve. देखो यहाँ पे, the demand curve is getting differentiated with respect to price. This is equal to supply getting differentiated with respect to price. The second says that the slope of demand curve is more than the slope of supply curve. This says slope of demand curve is less than slope of supply curve. And then this says none of the above. So you have to go ahead and tell which of the following is the right stability condition that we have. Now, one way to go ahead and solve such questions can be through the concept of difference equation. I am just going to tell you for once, huh? So, or differential equation, depending on whether you want to take it as discrete or whether you want to go ahead and take it as continuous. So this is also called as one of the applications of differential equation. So how do I go about it? But let's go ahead and say that the equation of the demand curve can be written as alpha minus beta p. There is a negative relationship between quantity demanded and price. And I have assumed that alpha and beta are both positive. So these two are taken to be positive. Similarly, I'm going to write the equation of the supply curve, which is going to be minus gamma plus delta p. And here I'm going to go ahead and assume that gamma and delta are greater than 0, right? Now we know, of course, that we want demand and supply to be equal to each other under usual circumstances. And we want to go ahead and we want to ensure that the excess demand is 0 in case of equilibrium condition, right? So our equilibrium is attained where the quantity demanded is equal to quantity supplied. Make sure that you understand if quantity demanded is more than supply, we have excess demand, which is positive, right? Demand minus supply is positive. And if we go ahead and we have demand less than supply, then we can go ahead and say that the excess supply demand is negative, right? But under the usual circumstances, we want to go ahead and we want to ensure that we don't have excess demand. Demand and supply are equal to each other. Now, what we can go ahead and do, I'm just trying to derive this for you, beta. एक बारी derive कर लोगे, lifelong याद रहेगा. So what happens is the movement of price always depends on excess demand equation. So what happens is, so ये हम सबको पता है कि suppose imagine the price of, so there was this case study also that I was recently saying that the price of housing sector, the price of houses in Delhi NCR, especially in Delhi and Noida, is drastically increasing. So the question is why? Why is the price increasing? And the answer is that the demand of house is more than the supply of house, and therefore you can just ask for a higher and higher inflated price. On the other hand, if demand of house would have been lower than the supply of house, the price of house would have fallen over time, right? So what we can therefore go ahead and we can kind of imagine here is that we are going to go ahead and we are going to consider the change in price over time, how price changes over time as a function of excess demand माइनस सप्लाई. तो हम ये बोल रहे हैं कि प्राइस टाइम के साथ साथ कैसे बदलेगा, इट मस्ट बी अ फंक्शन ऑफ द एक्सेस डिमांड. ठीक है जी. नाउ ट्राई टू टेक दिस फॉरवर्ड. नाउ वी वांट टू अंडरस्टैंड व्हाट इज गोइंग टू बी द डिमांड पाथ ऑफ प्राइस, कि प्राइस का पाथ कैसा रहेगा, राइट? सो इन ऑर्डर टू गो अहेड एंड अंडरस्टैंड दिस, फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल आई एम गोइंग टू जस्ट पुट द quantity demand and quantity supply equation in this equation that I have written. So quantity demanded ko we had gone ahead and assumed alpha minus beta p, and quantity supplied ko we had gone ahead and assumed minus gamma plus delta p. So I'm going to just write this as m alpha minus beta p minus, and this is going to be minus gamma plus delta p, right? Just open this up. So you will get m alpha minus beta p plus gamma plus, sorry, minus delta p, right? What you can go ahead and do now is you can take the price common and the constant side common. So this will give you m alpha plus gamma minus m p beta plus delta, and this will be dp by dt, right? And now what you can go ahead and do is you can just take this side here. Beta, I know you may think कि इतना कुछ कर क्यों रहे हैं, graphical approach से इसको solve कर लो. It should not be the right thing. मतलब as a student who is aiming these exams, you should be well aware about all possible approaches. You should be well aware about how to go ahead and solve any kind of question. And you should be open to taking additional information, right? And this is just an extra information for you, and this must be soaked into your memory. ठीक है जी. So I will just take this on the other side and I will get dp by dt plus m beta plus delta into p is equal to m alpha plus gamma. I will get this, right? Now what you can go ahead and you can do is you can compare this with the general differential equation format, right? So whenever we have any general differential equation format, which is of the form dy by dt plus m into y is equal to n, this is called as first order linear differential equation. इसको हम first order linear differential equation बोलते हैं. Why first order? Because the order is 1. Why linear? Because I don't see any power here. And whenever we have first order linear differential equation, then the equilibrium condition of this can be written as yt is equal to y naught minus n by m into e to the power minus mt plus n by n. This is the solution of this differential equation. So if I just compare it beta for our sake, what will we go ahead and what will we get? We will get that this m here is this thing and this n here is this thing, isn't it? So I can go ahead and I can just, and of course my y is nothing but p, right? So I can go ahead and I can just formulate it for price also. So I will get that the price can be written as price in period 0 minus, and I can just put these values. So we can clearly see that my n is this m alpha plus gamma, right? And my m will be this m beta plus delta, right? And here I will have e to the power minus my m is this factor m beta plus delta t plus my n is going to be this m alpha plus gamma upon m beta plus delta, right? M and m will cancel out and I will be left up with p naught minus alpha plus gamma upon beta plus delta. Forgive me if I'm taking you through a longer approach. Knowledge is the key. You should be knowledgeable enough to know all possible approaches. एक easy तरीके से भी अभी सिखाऊंगी, but अभी के लिए ये बस सीख लो. Just try to understand try to grab this extra information of differential equation. थोड़ा सा समझ लो. It is not necessary. It can be done through other ways also, but I just want to kind of go ahead and help you understand, this kind of question, right? And now I ask you, what is the equilibrium price, suppose, in this case? पूरा कर लेते हैं अब इसको, अब कर ही रहे हैं तो. So now I ask you, what is equilibrium price? So equilibrium price is always this component that you have here, right? So I can already tell you that when demand will be equal to supply, the equilibrium price that you will be getting will be alpha plus gamma upon beta plus delta. This can be written as your equilibrium price, right? Now, let me ask you one more thing. When will this be a stable equilibrium? When will it be stable equilibrium? Right? Is this, in other words, is this time path dynamically stable or not? If not, when would it become a dynamically stable equilibrium? That's the question that we need to go ahead and answer. It will be a dynamically stable equilibrium only when we go ahead and we approach this equilibrium value. So the condition for dynamically stable equilibrium, try to understand this thing. यहाँ देखो, this will approach this value. This will approach this value only if I can go ahead and I can make sure that the following condition is satisfied, that this power that you have here, right? This power that you have here. I think I missed something. This was m beta plus delta. Only if this power is positive. So I want that m beta plus delta, this should be positive, right? For m beta plus delta to be positive, m is assumed to be a positive number only. When I just started this thing, we started by saying that this m is some sense, adjustment coefficient, and it has to be positive. I want this beta plus delta to be positive. I mean, to be greater than 0. So I want beta plus delta to be greater than 0, which means I want beta to be greater than minus of delta, right? But beta was the slope of the demand curve. And, when I find, so if I were to go ahead and I were to think about it, beta has to be greater than minus of delta. I can rewrite this thing as, if I just multiply minus 1 on both sides, minus beta will be less than delta. And if I really think about it, then if I were to find the slope of this curve, dq by dp, I would have got minus beta only, na? So this is nothing but the slope of the demand curve. And if I find dqs by dp, this is nothing but the slope of the supply curve. So I am saying that, where is it? Here. So I am saying that the slope of demand curve, which is minus beta, must be less than the slope of supply curve, which is delta. This becomes my equilibrium condition. I know I have taken you through a very, very long approach, but it will be very helpful to you if you just write this down once. Believe me, it is going to be very useful to you. So we say that del dp by del p should be less than del sp by del p. Am I clear with it? Okay. Now, Now, let me go ahead and take you through a simple approach also if you don't want to go through maths. जरूरी नहीं है इसके लिए maths required है बेटा. We can go ahead and do through a simple approach also. So I'm writing there or. Clear? Achha. Now let me go ahead and do this through a, let me ease things out for you. Let me do this through a graphical approach. So try to see graph number 1. Beta, here is the demand curve. Here is the supply curve. Supply upward sloping है तो इसका slope कुछ भी positive रहा होगा, +2, +3 कुछ भी. Demand is downward sloping here तो इसका slope कुछ भी रहा होगा, -2, -3, -4, negative रहा होगा. Clearly a negative number is less than a positive number, right? That is why in this case we are attaining a stable equilibrium. Whenever the demand curve is downward sloping and the supply curve is upward sloping, we go ahead and we attain a stable equilibrium. The reason behind us attaining a stable equilibrium is that this condition is satisfied. अब इस stable equilibrium का graphically implication क्या है? It means that if I take, suppose I take a price P1. हाँ बेटा, at P1 demand is more, supply is less. And we have already discussed that whenever demand will be more than supply, we know that price will increase over time, right? So price will increase over time. This happens in case of the housing market. So in case of houses, if like in Delhi NCR, if the demand of house will increase, the price will increase over time. So you will reach towards your equilibrium. If I take any price which is very high, say P2, at P2, I see supply is more, demand is less. Supply is more than demand. So, beta, if supply is more than demand, क्या होगा market में? Excess supply. It's like saying that somebody is supplying you a lot of units. Say somebody is supplying you, just say it happened during Great Depression. There was a lot of supply. We always assumed supply creates its own demand, but ऐसा हुआ नहीं. Demand थी ही नहीं, सिर्फ supply थी, right? And when supply was there, but demand was not there, what happened over time? The prices started declining. There was deflation in the economy. When supply is more, demand is less, price will fall over time and you will be reaching back your equilibrium. So in either case, you are able to go ahead and attain your equilibrium, right? Am I making sense? Now what we can go ahead and do is we can take the second case. Now this is going to be interesting. Try to understand this thing. What I will be going ahead and doing, let us go ahead and let us take this to be the supply curve, downward sloping supply curve. And let's take this to be the demand. Demand is steep, supply is flat. Okay, let us take this as where demand and supply are equal. And I take any price which is lower. So I take a price P1, right? What happens at P1, beta? At P1, supply is more than demand. At P1, supply is more than demand. When supply is more than demand, what will happen? Price will fall over time. So instead of increasing and going towards equilibrium, it will deviate from equilibrium and go down. It will go even below. Achha, what if I start with price P2? At price P2, demand is more, supply is less. So demand is more than supply. So if demand is more than supply, what do we know? Price will increase over time. So we will again deviate from the equilibrium price. So we won't be able to reach the equilibrium price. We will be deviating from the equilibrium price. So non-stable equilibrium. Why did this happen? Demand is going ahead and becoming steeper than the supply curve. So the slope of demand curve, it is actually more than the slope of supply curve. It had to happen, right? Okay, case 3. Case 3. Now I will take a flat demand curve and a steep supply curve. And I will take this equilibrium as P0. Now I go ahead and again take a price, say P1. At P1, what happens, beta? Demand is more than supply. So when demand is more than supply, what is going to go ahead and happen? Well, it is very clear to us that prices must increase over time. So you will go towards your equilibrium price and take a price here, say P2. What happens at P2, beta? At P2, supply is more than demand. Supply is more than demand. What will happen? Price will decrease over time. So you will again reach your equilibrium. So we have again proved, so demand is flatter. That means that the slope of demand curve is less than the slope of supply curve. So here also again, we have proved the same thing yet again, right? This was a graphical approach. Okay, now let's go ahead and take one last easy breezy approach to kind of do this question. I want to take all approaches, up to you what you want to go ahead and do in exam. Let's say that we define V as the difference between demand and supply. And we differentiate this with respect to P. Right? Now, assuming that we follow the law of demand, we know that as price increases, demand decreases. So we know that this part, beta, this will be negative. जैसे price बढ़ेगा, demand गिरेगी, they will move in opposite direction, it will be negative. And as of now, if I just assume the usual law of supply, तो law of supply क्या बोलता है? It says that as price increases, supply decreases, supply increases, and vice versa. So it has to be positive. Positive multiplied with negative will become negative. So I will have negative and negative. And sum of two negative number will also be negative. So what do we get? We get that dV by dP will be negative. That means what was dV by dP equal to, beta? This part. So we get that dd by dt minus dsp by dp will be negative. So we get from here also that the slope of the demand curve must be less than the slope of the supply curve. Hence proved. So I can take it through any way you want me to take. We can derive it in multiple ways. Up to you what you want to do. But today we have learned, I think, this lesson for sure that, whenever you ask me for a stability condition, the stability condition will be that slope of demand will be lower than the slope of supply, right? It will be lower than the slope of supply. At least we have been able to go ahead and prove this thing. Okay, so we will go ahead and we will end this session here for today. And I am going to go ahead and I had more questions in my mind, but let's take those questions in some other session. I could just take one question for the day. So maybe in some other session, we will go ahead and we will take the other questions. In the meanwhile, just try to answer this question yourself. Take this question as a homework question. So the question says that according to Walrasian analysis, if n markets exist, then equilibrium should be achieved in how many markets? So n markets exist. What is the maximum number of markets that I want to ensure that the equilibrium should be achieved in? Try to answer this question better. Okay, thank you.